Fueled by C4, Cellucor, and Extend. Use the code Clydesdale to get 20% off the checkout at c4energy.com. On Clydesdale Media, where we bring you the widest array of content here on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notifier so you're the first to know when new episodes are available. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Clydesdale Media Podcast. My name is Scott Switzer. I'm the Clydesdale. I am so honored and privileged to have with me one of the co-founders of the Legends, first form Legends Championship, Joe Linton. Joe, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing? Thank you.
I'm going to put up a live call-in number. I just want to let everybody know I have the phone hooked up. I know we have an audience of a lot of Masters athletes, so they may have some questions. If you do, go ahead and pop on the phone. If not, just sit back, throw some stuff in the comments, and we will be sure to answer to the best of our ability what's going on. So Joe, it is a week away from Legends, the first form Legends Championship that's going on this year in Tempe, Arizona. Everything's all set up and ready to go. You don't have anything to do for next week?
Yeah, pretty much, right? No, this is this week, Monday through Wednesday, is normally pretty busy as always. Just confirming that, shipments are on their way to show up and all that good stuff that we have for the athletes, volunteers, spectators, and make sure all the heavy equipment's going to be there. So just confirming all those big ticket items are on their way. That's pretty much where we're at now. Then final communication with volunteers, starting more communication with athletes. That's always the exciting part. And, just fielding all the questions we get from athletes along this week as well. There's always a lot of questions that come in this last week.
So unlike the CrossFit Games where they have 40 women, 40 men, you have over 500 athletes coming in next week to compete. What are the logistics like, making sure everybody knows where they're supposed to be, where they have to check in, all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we like to keep it simple with check-ins. So check-ins always at the same venue. We like to do that because it gives the athletes a chance to see what we've set up and where they're going to be competing and kind of get the excitement going from check-in. This year is going to be much like how we did in 2021, where you'll walk into the venue. You're going to see more setup. Actually, we're starting a full day earlier this year. So the plan is right now that both floors will be set up completely, decals, rig, and everything. All the signage will be out and about. We'll be buttoning up some small stuff here and there, but upon check-in, we'll be able to allow the athletes to walk on the floor, kind of take pictures. They will gather their gear, credentials, and other goodies we have for them. They're going to change into one of the outfits they're getting from First Form, our title sponsor. Then they'll have their professional photos taken. I think it's like 3 or 4 poses in which they'll be sent via email that evening to post as they want. And so it's making sure that all the athletes have all the information as far as check-in, and we like to keep it the same spot so that there's no confusion.
So this is going to be a blend. I really want to talk a lot about this year's competition, then get into what's going on with you guys next year. But like check in with professional outfits, photos, that seems very games-esque. Is this like a trial run for you this year to kind of put some of this stuff in place, see how it's going to work logistically to get you ready for next season?
So we did this in 21, just not, this is a step up from 2021.
Okay.
2021 was basically, we were trying to replicate as much as we could of the games experience. And replicating the games experience technically has always been our goal from day one. That's why we have so many athletes, especially in the younger age groups. So we wanted to give every masters group, the 35s, the 40s, and so on, as many competitors as possible, just like the pros have. They compete against 40. So that's why we have 40 in the beginning age groups. And then it scales down according to participation from the Masters community in the Open and other competitions. So this has always kind of been our goal, is to increase what we can do at check-in, increase that experience. This year is going to be our biggest and best year. We'll have sponsors there, First Form, Tier, or TYR. Giant Lifting will be there, as well as a few other sponsors and vendors, so that you can meet and greet them. They give them some really good discounts out there. So we're creating a whole nother level of experience. Our goal is to win everyone over at check-in. And then, if we get them smiling at check-in, we'll keep them smiling all weekend.
So you've kind of been like the vagabond of competitions. You were in San Diego. You went to Cookeville. This year it's Tempe, Arizona. Why Tempe?
The main beginning reason was that Giant Lifting, our equipment sponsor, was located in Phoenix. And when you're trying to source equipment, it's much easier to work a deal with that and minimize cost if their shipping is minimal. So that was one of the first reasons. Second is that cost of stay and travel to Tempe is much better than San Diego, where we were prior. It's also easier than Cookeville. Now, Nashville's easy, but Cookeville's now are outside of Nashville, so a lot of people had to get rental cars and arrange transportation. So ease of travel, cost of travel, and equipment were the three main buckets that kind of sold us on looking into the area. Then upon receiving information about the fitness center, Sun Devil Fitness Center at ASU, after my first site visit, we were pretty much sold. We're like, we got to make this happen. It's a beautiful, beautiful venue, lots of opportunity for growth, even outside the fitness center itself. We're already planning taking on a much bigger footprint next year at ASU. So it's been a really good experience so far. Probably the best experience we've had so far in dealing with a facility and the city.
Well, I can tell you, for one, I truly appreciate the fact that ease of travel. The Airbnb we're getting is at such a great rate compared to other places.
Awesome.
It's making it so it's not such a struggle for us smaller media companies to be able to get to a place to be able to cover the event.
Yeah, that's great to hear, because that's, again, a big driver. And that also goes to like volunteers. We're getting people that are volunteering their time. We want to minimize that cost as much as possible, but also, like, we're in a city that has an international airport, so lots of flight options, which means they're an hour flight away from San Diego if they want to take their family, on one more little flight, and then they can vacation there. Or you can be in Phoenix. It's a beautiful time of year to be in Phoenix. It's going to be, from what I saw, it's going to be sunny, about 75 the entire competition. But if anybody knows our history the past 3 years, it's rained the first 2 days for the past 3 years running. So maybe we'll have a little bit of rain, but we'll be inside this year. Not like our last time in 2020. We were in Goodyear, Arizona, and it rained on us day one.
One of our listeners, Kenneth, said, no Super 8 this time, Scott. No, don't have to go with the Super 8. We have an Airbnb with a private pool, and probably paying less than I did at the Super 8 in Madison this year. So can't beat that with a stick, because it was 23 degrees here yesterday, Joe. So I am dying to get to Tempe next week.
Yeah, I was just out there 2 weeks ago, and it was 80 degrees and sunny.
I will take that for sure. So last year, because of the size, I'm guessing you split the day into two, where like some of the age groups went in the morning, some of the age groups went in the afternoon. Do you have to do that at ASU, or are you going to be able to run kind of everybody simultaneously?
So original goal was to do that, and we're still sticking to that, but with a little more overlap, which we don't mind. We actually got good feedback on that from the athletes, because you can get your 2 workouts done in 4 to 5 hours, and then you have the rest of the day to rest. It won't be. It'll be a little bit longer than that. Average is like 4 to 6 hours. But adding in the scale than the teams is what complicated our scheduling, and we had to have a little more overlap because of that. We took on where our max roster was going to be 570, but we only ended up having about 563 sign up total, so almost sold out completely. Had a little bit on the scale side was still open, but with adding 150 potential athletes, we had to open up a lot more time on Friday and Saturday, which are the days they are competing.
So I get that from a spectator point of view, and I have that kind of later down on my agenda, but we can talk about that now.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest issue, and I've said it on here a lot, is I love the Masters athletes. I love watching them, but by the way they're constructed, you kind of have to sit through the same event like 24 times because of all the heats. And I'm just throwing a number out. I don't know what the actual number is, but you see the same event over and over and over and over again throughout the day because you have 4 heats from every age group, men and women, and it just becomes repetitive. When you break up the day like that, it kind of breaks up that monotony of the same event over and over again. Do you think that you got that when you did that in Cookeville last year?
It was similar because we had 2 floors and each floor ran the same workout all day. So there's no switch. There was 2 workouts a day. One workout had 2 scores, or was a 2-parter. I kind of forget, but it's very similar. Next year, when we take on a larger footprint, and that's what is our limiting factor, is being able to take on a larger part of a venue so that we can have a much larger field of play or an additional field of play. Because if you do that, then you have way more options to break up the monotony, like you said. You can have one floor that has 2 separate workouts that can do that, help break up that monotony as well. But with that, you do take on the task of acquiring more volunteers and staff to run the event. So, it's kind of a double-edged sword there. You can have a 40-lane rig, but for that one floor, you need 40 judges and 20 staff minimum. And that can get taxing on running an all-day event. So, as we're working through it and growing through those aches and pains. But yeah, so next year is going to be a lot different because we are taking on more space.
Okay. So you keep saying next year. Just to clarify, and I know I have people that have been asking me this and want me to ask you this. I think I know the answer. You are going to continue to run the community event of Legends, even though you've become a partner with CrossFit for the games.
Correct. Yeah. So when we had the first initial conversation between Bob and I with what we wanted to do there, initially, to be honest, we didn't think like we could do it. We thought it'd be too much, but after having conversations with CrossFit and how much support that we're going to have from them logistically and financially, like we've spoke upon in other podcasts, and then hearing feedback from our fans and our followers of Legends Championship, we decided to team up with Monster Games, Jason Ansley, who currently runs sponsorship for our event now. And his event is a live event qualifier, the only one in the US. It kind of would create a hole in his competition. It would create a hole in the season calendar for our followers. So we decided and talked about it and said, if we 3 team up, we can definitely pull this off like we are this year. And our plan is to stay in Tempe, Arizona at ASU, which means that logistically and for planning, it's a lot easier to, at least rinse and repeat the location and then continue to build upon that. So once we talked through it, the daunting task of running 2 became a lot more manageable. So we decided to move forward with running both.
I know that will make a ton of my listeners super happy because Masters don't have major competitions throughout the off season other than Wadapalooza and you guys right now, right? So it was going to put a hole in for them going forward. And I'm so glad that you guys are going to continue to run that. With ASU being a more modern facility from all the pictures I've seen, I talked to Heather Lawrence about the games themselves. And one of the reasons they're going to Fort Worth is it's a plug and play arena for them.
Yeah.
There's less upfront work because it's such a modern facility. Do you think you'll have that with Arizona State?
Yeah, it'll be a bit different as far as it is the modern feel. So you're going to walk into, big hallway, nice floors. The facilities are big, giant locker rooms and bathrooms. I mean, last year we were at Mayhem, so we're utilizing their facilities, and we brought in a semi-trailer full of bathrooms. So it's it was a different feel, right? So this year compared to previous years is going to be much different. Even in San Diego, we were at the Sheraton Hotel right in downtown San Diego. In the hotel, it was a very modern feel, but our main floors were outside in one of their semi-permanent event tents right on the bay. It was beautiful, but you were still in kind of a set up semi-permanent building. So this year it's going to be in a giant basketball court setup. Both floors are close to each other, but not close enough to impact each other. We got some beautiful signage made from Signs RX. If anyone saw last year, the big sign we had at Mayhem was 50 by 20 tall, 50 wide, which was beautiful. This year it's 70 by 30, and
wow.
It covers an entire basketball court when you lay it out. So we're kind of transforming the whole wing of the ASU Sun Devil Fitness Center. So it's gonna have a modern feel, but you're definitely we're decking it out to make sure that we cover as much wall space as possible, just because it enhances the feel. The frills, it's always exciting. I feel like it makes the competitors take it more serious when you see how much work was put into setup, which we always put a lot of thought into, and we max out our budget every year with this company, Signs RX. So we actually just finalized it this morning, and we were right at the tip top of what we can afford with them. We're spending every.
Corey Leonard said, getting my Airbnb for next year right now. Be right back.
Nice.
So he was one of our listeners that wanted to know that you were going to continue to run the community event. Cool. Has goals to make the games, but just needs a step in between till he turns 50. So that's what I know his story more intimately. And so that's cool. So a couple questions more about this year's Legends. Are you going to be streaming at all?
No, not going to be able to stream. We the past 2 years we had a very expensive live stream outside of our budget, but it was a commitment we made to experiment if it was possible that level live stream with a Masters competition. And unfortunately, we weren't able to secure sponsorship based off the viewership we had, which was still pretty good, but apparently it wasn't enough. So this year we were completely out of budget to put towards anything significant on a live stream. We have been already talking about the Masters games next year and Legends Championship next year with a different version of a live stream that is kind of a new technology thing that a few people are doing that the past couple months we've seen them experiment with. So we're excited that there's finally something in between spending 20 grand on a still cam that I don't think anyone can really appreciate, and spending 200 plus grand on what we've done in the past.
Yeah.
And finally something in between. But before, there was nothing, because you're a media group, you start bringing in all this equipment, you got to power it, you got to man it, you got to control it and run it. And it's a whole production, way more complicated than I thought. And it makes me even scared to know what the games deal with on their end, because it's the same company that we used that the games used, Hamilton Road Productions. Very professional, excellent people. but even for what they provided with us, how much work they put into it, I can only imagine what their team looks like for something like the CrossFit Games.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing to see some media come, and we've tried it ourselves, the guerrilla broadcast, right? Where with iPhones now they have 4K, and, if you can get enough bandwidth, you can get a pretty good picture out if you have enough people to kind of man them. And it's been fun kind of seeing people experiment with it and get better and better. And it's going to be cool to see if that kind of like drives the price down, or we find better ways to do this to get more people to get eyes on the sport we love.
I agree. And it's very difficult because even like 2021, we did a live stream. It was a much different than last year at Mayhem, much different look. So in 2021, we did all 4 days. We didn't build out any production in between the workouts or heats. So like you just saw like a blank screen saying next heat starts in this. Because even with having like activations with your sponsors on the side, that requires more manpower, more logistics, and more money. So in 2021, we did all 4 days and it was amazing. But we were limited on, adding in more production into the whole broadcast to create more of a story. It was just, like you said, the same heats, same workouts, straight through on one floor. The next year, we decided to go a different route. This was last year, on building out the production with activations with sponsors, showing some pre-made stories from about athletes and people in the community in the Masters community. And it was amazing, but we could only air, it was only like not even 2 full days that we could do, because again, the amount of cost there is associated with that. So I'm excited to see something come in between the two next year to get back to a 2021-esque broadcast, which will show minimum the main floor all 4 days with some daily recaps from the announcers that we will take on. In previous years, Sean Woodland has done it twice. We have Bill Grunler, Annie Sakamoto, and some other ones that I'm blanking on. But, getting those people back involved, because we had so much positive feedback just hearing from athletes. Like hearing these guys say their name was a very special experience for them. And so that is part of an athlete experience we want to get back to next year.
Yeah. And we're going to do our little part. We do guerrilla wrap-up shows at every event we go to. We're going to do that at your event next week. You've agreed to come on a couple of the nights, at least if you have time. So we'll do the best to get as many names out there as we can. And I'm super excited to do that. It's one of my favorite things to do in the whole season. So we're super stoked about that. Jeremy Eats World, Jeremy Williams, he competed in 2021, said it was amazing, and he'd argue the hardest year from a programming standpoint. So my question to you is, the programming, I'm sure, already.
Yes.
How do you think it stacks up this year?
It's pretty hard. This year was, again, every year it's the most fun part, programming. I know a lot of other competitions, they kind of hire it out or bring in like outside sources, but Bob and I, it's just something that we take a very long time to do. We literally already have workouts programmed for next year that we'll tweak for 12 months. But it's definitely the hardest year because of the variety that we're putting in with one. Everyone knows we're swimming, so that's going to be a big change for everyone. And the amount of kind of thought that was put into each workout to find who's the fittest and possibly most experienced, if you will, because we like to challenge experience as well. But I can't say is we also like to give the opportunity to someone that maybe isn't experienced, maybe isn't as skilled, but maybe their conditioning is very high and they got a lot of grit. I like workouts to where you can see those people win as well. Mix up the leaderboard. If this guy can power through, maybe it's not a super technical workout, but they have no quit, then It'd be really cool. It's really cool to see those people win as well. So I think you're going to see less consistency of the people that normally take first, second, and third. I think there's going to be a little bit more mix up this year.
Corey Leonard says, make it hurt. I like it.
Oh, it's going to hurt.
Yeah. So how did you and Bob come together and come up with this idea to put on a Masters competition?
You see, Bob was a member at my gym since 2014, I think. That's when we first met. He was 40, in terrible CrossFit shape, if you will. Did more of a bodybuilding type, Globo gym, functional training kind of background. But, mobility was terrible, but he still entered the Open that year. And I think that's what got it. I think it was that Open that year that got him hooked. Shortly after that, I started coaching him. He couldn't even overhead squat a PVC pipe when we started, but he had a ton of drive, and you can tell he's a fierce competitor, and he had a ton of power. So I knew he had potential. I mean, I think he was power cleaning like 265 with zero technique the day I met him. So he had power. He was deadlifting 450 plus, So I was like, all right, well, if a guy like this has this, kind of natural strength, and he has that drive to learn, he's going to be good. So we started going to local Masters competitions, small ones. Then he qualified for some bigger ones like Granite Games and Wadapalooza. And it was through like competitions, like the bigger ones, where you saw that the Masters was brought on to help the community and make them happy. But they were a sideshow, like everyone has seen. They rarely got the main stage, and like that, the CrossFit Games in the years prior. So it was after 2017 Wadapalooza, I think, where they canceled like the Masters final day or something, but they let the pros still go. And that kind of, we weren't really running big events yet, so I'm sure they had their reasons, but it kind of pissed us off a little bit. So we thought, hey, maybe we can do it better. Maybe we can start something. So we put together, mainly Bob. He came to me with the idea. He's like, hey, let's do a Masters comp, single day. We'll just invite some people from the local area. So he pretty much pulled together about, I think it was 36 people. The furthest that someone came out was LA, Los Angeles, which is about 2-3 hours north of San Diego. And we did a one-day comp, and people liked it. Did the next year, but added a scale division. We only got about 54 people. So we're like, all right, well, maybe this isn't going to work, but we felt like there was still something there. The following year, 2019, was when we added the online qualifier, 2 workouts per week for 3 weeks in a row. And we qualified 120 people to come to my gym for a 3-day comp. We provided custom name signs, custom tops and bottoms from Born Primitive. Spent a lot of time working on that because it was pretty much just him and I up until the day of. And it was that year that I think that helped us kind of make a huge mark and show the community that this is possible. And that gave us a ton of fuel because we had like people from 8 countries fly out. We had 46 US states represented in 2019. And it kind of solidified that we had something going on that was good. Then we wanted to pursue it aggressively.
That's awesome. And it's grown into this major competition. So I want to kind of transition into being selected as the partner for the games. So we started this media company back in 2019. I started hearing rumblings about the breakup. We actually had Dave Castro on our podcast before he was fired. So it's been a minute. And he talked to us about, he had a vision for breaking off the age groups on that podcast. And that was 3 years ago. He gets fired. He comes back. And then this kind of, the ball starts rolling again. You're hearing a lot of rumblings at the games, even before the games. And then bam, we get the announcement a couple months ago that it's truly happening. did you hear those rumblings in 21? And when you did, was there a concerted effort to try to be the one that was chosen? If in fact that happened.
We heard a little bit of it's kind of weird and I've heard actually Dave Castro say this, like he doesn't go to many other comps and he doesn't watch it because it kind of takes you away from what you're doing for your competition. I didn't pay much attention to the CrossFit Games on the Masters side after a certain point. I was just concerned with kind of seeing what we can do. I always look to the programming, just to still get ideas, but I didn't really watch it. We heard some rumblings, but we've always been kind of like kept our head down and just worked on us and our competition. That year, we weren't really focused on being selected, but we felt like in every year we've done this, we felt like it's just our goal to host the best Masters competition in the world. The most high quality, most prestigious. We give the most, we try the hardest. And if we continue to do that, then that will be recognized. And we felt like that was the most simple way to do it. Him and I, as far as like politics and, making friends in the industry, we didn't really focus on that. We're just going to do what we do and provide the best experience for our people. So we always felt like if it did happen, that we feel like we were deserving to at least be in the short list of that. And when we got that call, I think it was like 2 days after Dave came back. So it was definitely high priority on his list. We were excited, but not totally surprised. Yeah, that was an exciting time.
So you must think that this is the right decision to go in. I've heard you say on other things, the Masters deserve their own spotlight and not to be a sideshow. And I thought this year at the games, they did a better job by kind of having them go first and having their own time. Do you think it's an advantage to the athlete to have their own competition?
Yes. It gives, again, like I've said before, and I can kind of elaborate, it gives opportunity for this group to create something beyond what we feel like the CrossFit team can provide, being at the same location and venue and time as the rest of the groups. Knowing the logistics on just running our comp, I mean, we have 420 athletes, and with the footprint that we take over for a venue, for how long it takes to set up and break down and the teams, it gets very expensive. So a lot of revenue and manpower is eaten up just on setup and breakdown. And then to be able to put all the athletes, that number of athletes, through true tests, it becomes very expensive, and expensive on volunteer and manpower, and also financially. So this gives the opportunity for a group like us, and Wheel One, to maximize the experience that each have. I feel like if this didn't happen, it was just going to stay very, very the same to what we've seen for the past, 8 to 10 years that they've had. So I think it's a very smart decision. And I mean, year one, we got plans that are going to take away everyone's concerns, and that's just year one. And if you track what we've accomplished in Legends for the past 7 years, you should expect the same sort of progress and efforts to move forward on what we provide in the games, Masters games as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is the right way to go. But I have a co-host on my Thursday night show who is a Masters athlete. She is competing at Legends. Mm-hmm. It's been her dream to compete at the games and have that experience with all the athletes. And for her, it felt like it was taken away. Now she may be getting past that now. But when that was initially announced, it was a big blow to her. And so do you feel pressure even at this Legends competition to show what you're capable of, to kind of ease their mind?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. If, but I like pressure, kind of thrive off of that. So if I didn't feel that, then there'd be a problem. So there's absolutely pressure to show everyone what we can do and how, what we can improve on from previous years at Legends, and to, talk to them in person, and her feelings on that, I could totally sympathize with. It's a pretty cool experience. I've coached at the games a few times, and it's a pretty cool experience to see your athlete warming up, and you have Matt Frazier, Tia, Rich Froning, all those people walking around next to you. That is special, and that is something that they will not be able to experience. But I do think that, that what they'll experience in the spotlight and the depth of competition that we're going to be able to bring, it's going to bring it more back to the competition itself, rather than people focusing on a lot on making the games, all the frills, all the pomp and circumstance, which we're still going to provide, but it brings it back to the competition, to where, like I've said before, again, it's going to be really difficult to be top 10. There's going to be people that qualify 20th, 25th, that maybe had something going on, that are going to heal up, or maybe they know that they can get top 40, that they can schedule their training throughout the year to peak at the Masters games. So it's going to change the competition drastically. And to see, the leaderboard just have more movement, I think is going to attract a lot more people to the Masters side of the games. So I think it's going to change it. Everyone's going to, once they experience and go through that depth of competition and how it changes the competition floor and its outcomes, I think that's when everyone's going to be happy with the change as well. Another reason why I think they'll be happy about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And her story is she finished 17th as a 39-year-old.
Okay.
So she's flipping to 40 this year. And I think, like, in her head, it was special to be top 10, but she still can shoot for top 10. Right. Like, and I think we got her head around that, but I want to go to the 40 because I actually love the way the season is set up now for the age groups across the board. I thought 10 was too few for the games, especially 35 to 50. Sorry. They're 50% of our open revenue. They deserve more. Do you think 40 is too much? Or do you think we'll find in a couple years, maybe we need to go to like 30? Because that's a lot of heats for you to run. Like we talked about earlier.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't think it's too much. We'll have 440 total athletes at the Masters games, because we're increasing the 65 to 20. And with the venues that we're currently researching and getting closer to be able to release some information on, again, we'll have bigger fields of play. We'll have bigger heats. We'll have something that Legends can't provide, basically. We haven't been able to secure like a giant field and map out this running route or biking route or something where you can run something like Murph. You can run something like that, to where you can get through a lot of heat, or you can get through a lot of athletes faster. So it won't be too much. And we're also playing with the idea, and if we do this, we'll announce it very early. The idea of making some cuts, small ones, to get down to 30 or less, 20 some or less. And that would be because we're doing a 4-day comp. That's our goal, so, and that would be probably not till the last day, but that'd be something that, again, could be another feather in people's cap, is that they've made the final day at the Masters CrossFit Games. That they then were able to go through a certain workout that is more highly complicated, because of now we have more space with less people. And I feel like it would be very exciting to watch, even if you didn't make the cut, so we're playing with the ideas on, 40, for now. We're not against 30. We're not against going down to that. We won't go below that. That is not enough, especially those lower age groups and the depth of skill and fitness they have in that. But yeah, so we feel like it's not too much, but it just needs to be done the right way.
Yeah, I guess when I saw the teens at 30, it just made sense to me. And then I didn't understand why they went you to 40, but it's not for me to understand. I just report the news. I don't make it. So
they were pushed for 40, and they've been very respectful of kind of what we've provided in the past and what we want to continue to provide from a hosted by Legends competition. So CrossFit was very respectful of our wishes there.
So I know you can't announce a venue net yet, but is the plan to have a stable location going forward for this, or to have something that moves around, like has been speculated with the elite CrossFit games?
Yeah, so it's weird. Our Legends history, started out in Carlsbad at my gym, though. Then we went to Goodyear, Arizona because of COVID. Then we went back to San Diego, but downtown because it was too big for my gym. Then we got an opportunity with Mayhem the next year, so we went to Tennessee. Then we're back in Phoenix, or back in Arizona, but in Phoenix. So what we've learned is that the first couple of years were extremely tough. Just logistics wise, traveling, but now we've learned we have a good system. So we're not afraid of having to travel year by year. It does provide something exciting to do, to travel to different vacation destinations or something near a vacation destination. So we're not against it. I guess it just comes down to whatever venue we land this year, and what that contract looks like. Will it be highly lucrative to where if we stay for 2 years, we can do a live stream at whatever we want. We got to weigh the pros and cons, but definitely not something that we're going to stay for, I would think, more than a couple of years. But we do want to eventually even look into international. I was like, Bob, let's go to Vancouver. That's just the closest almost international place we can get. Like, that'd be super cool. It's not maybe not crazy and go to Europe yet, which is very far for us. But again, even we talked about that, we're not against that. And that's just something that we will always consider and look at as far as making a traveling comp, but weighing in, making sure that people are getting the max out of each year. And so if that means signing a 2-year contract, we're not afraid to do that. If that means just going year by year and pitching a new city every year, we're not afraid to do that as well.
Yeah, from a logistics standpoint, it doesn't sound like nailing down a venue is the most fun part of doing this job. So maybe a couple of years at a place wouldn't be a bad idea.
My wife would she would love that. She understands the pros that it has when you kind of travel. And we've had a lot of good feedback. People saying like they love traveling to a different Legends competition every year. And we always think about that. So like as of this year, next year, I think this will be the first year since 2017, 2018, when it was just a single day comp that we stayed in one location for 2 years straight. So we'll see how it goes, but it is fun. There is pros and cons though. It is definitely not doing what they call requests for proposals. Those aren't not fun to me. Not my gig.
No. Not at all. So I heard you say in something that you believe that this new setup will actually bring more sponsors specifically into the space, not just for the competition, but for the athletes. Can you expand upon that a little bit for me?
Yeah. So like what we did in 2021, brought on a company called Truger as our equipment sponsor, brought them into and gave them a big spotlight for the CrossFit community. And through that, they saw the opportunity to start sponsoring some high-level athletes. Like I think Easy Muhammad and like Danny Spiegel was one of the first ones that they brought on. And then and they were kind of new to this CrossFit side. So yeah, not just saying like equipment, but we will be able to bring in companies that aren't necessarily big enough, I would say, to be like the CrossFit Pro Games, but they are big enough and do see that there's a potential ROI, because that's what it comes down to, right? Especially when you're trying to run a company as a sponsor, that maybe this atmosphere is worth a shot, and we kind of give them a better stepping stone in being able to bring on athletes, sponsor athletes, and however they want to run that relationship with them, it gives them a better opportunity. Kind of gives them a shot to have access to these athletes, and then you can really see how influential the Masters community can be. And like every year, especially at our events, the Masters community, they do speak with their wallets. They have the expendable income. A lot of them understand what it takes to run an event and what it takes to be a sponsor at an event. So they are more than willing to buy a sweater, buy a hat, buy some stuff for their family. Especially our championship, it's right before Christmas. So we get a lot of people buying gifts for their family and friends. So it gives these sponsors an opportunity to kind of get a crack at the CrossFit community, and also gives the CrossFit community a chance to support them. So I really think that we'll be able to have some really epic vendor villages that the companies will be able to make some money and be able to spend that back on athletes, on sponsoring them and making sure that those athletes make it back to our comp every year and support them. So I do think that there's going to be an uptick for sure.
I think that's awesome. I'm noticing, because we actually followed some athletes last year, like Jason Grubb's getting some sponsorships now. Rudy Berger just signed with Podium. Like some of the top end sponsors are starting to sign Masters athletes. And I think that's a great trend. And it actually says a lot about you and your competition.
Yeah. And we to support that as much as possible. We have our competition. We started to get back to, we started because we wanted to provide something that was better for the Masters community. So if that means me doing whatever I can to work with sponsors, to work with athletes that are sponsored, to make sure that they get their maximum exposure, like we're going to do that. That is, in my eyes, literally one of my jobs. That's something that I should be doing as an event director, is making sure that not only athletes are having a good experience, that the sponsors are having a good experience. Because if they're having a good experience on the sponsorship side, then they're going to come back the next year and take care of the athletes again. And so it's kind of like this big old ecosystem that, me, Bob, and Jason are trying to massage and get everyone to work together to continue to host this event together. Because we're the directors, but we can't do it without the athletes being there. We can't do it without the volunteers being there to run it. We can't do it without the sponsors being there to support it and be present for the athletes. So, we're all in this together, and that's what the Masters side of this, and teen and adaptive as well. That's where we need to focus on and maximizing. Then we'll be able to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I really think that the Masters games, especially with the size that we are and the number of Masters athletes that are competing out there, that we can get something close to early Carson days for the Masters. I think we could do that quickly. I don't think it's impossible. That'd be amazing.
That would be amazing. So next week is the first comp, the first thing on your list. How many volunteers you got coming in for that?
We're at about a little over 100 right now. We're making a push for about 20 more. We usually get 20 to 30 more. That's pretty light for a competition our size, but we have a really good staff that we bring in, and we have a lot of setup that we take care of early. So normally we make it once it's started, there's not a lot of running around to do. Even once on check-in day, which is Wednesday, we're pretty much just buttoning stuff up. We've learned that from mistakes previous years, by the way. So a little over 100. I'll probably end up with about 120. We're providing a lot for our volunteers this year. We reached out to even the ASU student body, reached out to a competition that all their volunteers that just hosted one at the same location, Desert City Classic, reached out to them. So we had some people that said they had heard really good things about our comp, and they were excited that we reached out to them. So local affiliates were providing some good prizes for the top affiliate with a VIP area and some extra goodies from sponsors. So, we want to make a relationship with a lot of people in the local area this year and continue to water all of the relationships we have with returning sponsors from around the country to make sure that they feel feel the gratefulness that we have for them, because it's very difficult to even set up these competitions, but then you have to actually have the people to do it. So we want to show that, and it's always a big goal for us year to year to give more and more back to the volunteers.
Yeah, that's how I got started in the competition world of CrossFit 2014. I started volunteering at regionals.
Nice.
And then went the whole way up through a bunch of competitions and all that. But it's my roots. And I love giving shout outs to the volunteers because I know they're doing it for a little bit of swag and really just because they love the community.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100% agree. They, even we have athletes every year tell us that this is like a highlight, one of the highlights of their life, which is amazing to hear because they're masters athletes. They've been around for a long time. But then most of the volunteers are masters as well. And they even say the same thing, that they feel there's something special about pulling off a competition like this, that even if you're volunteering, and heck, even with Bob and I, the past 7 years, we've, like I've said, we haven't profited, but we're still like, damn, this feels good to be able to do this. Like seeing everyone so happy and them pouring their hearts out on the field and the fields of play, and being able to we put this together from nothing, and so we came in year by year, we build it up, we program for it, we find the sponsors for it, we do all this work, and then we bring in the team to execute it, and they feel the same accomplishment that we all pulled it off together. And it's an experience. Like once you start volunteering for this stuff, now I understand why games judges and games volunteers do it year by year by year, and they travel around the country together as groups of friends. Now I get it now that it is a different experience, and it's something that they take a lot of pride in.
Yeah, I was part of that judging community for a minute. I know a lot of them are coming to Legends. Nice. So you're getting some of the best. I know that for a fact. I want to finish with this. Is there a list of athletes who are coming to Legends that we can see to see who we want to root for? For me personally, so I can research who's going to be there and kind of put together some bios and stuff like that. Is there a leaderboard up with that information yet?
Yeah, there's a leaderboard on the Competition Corner website. There's a full leaderboard for all the athletes. The teams need a few adjustments because of we allowed replacements really up until the comp. As long as they're in the appropriate age bracket, we can replace them. But all the individuals on both the RX and scaled side, those are up to date. Couple of crazy stories. So on the scale side, we have one person coming from Japan.
Okay.
And another person coming from Belgium area.
In the scaled division.
In scaled. Now, I don't want to downplay the scale division, but it just blows my mind that move to come out for a 2-day comp, and it makes me feel man, we have to nail it for them. Just those two people, they're coming all around the world, and so it's just crazy to think that maybe this scale side is kind of an experiment year, and it's first year that we've had it at the championship. That it was kind of, I was like, all right, cool. So there are some people out there that are willing to travel the world to come to a scale comp. And, it's just really cool to see. But there's definitely a lot of cool stories. Jason Grubb, I think he's going for is it fifth year in a row with Legends. There's a bunch of other returning legends that are going for fourth, third. I do some research on the women's 50. So Jen Dieter, 7-8 years in the games. She's turning 50. Shannon Schliefer. She's from the Nevada area. Multi-year games athlete. She's turning 50. And I believe Carol Meason, who won the 45s for Legends last year as a 49-year-old, she's turning 50. So that is something that I'm extremely excited to see. That's going to be a battle. And there's a few out there. So I'll put together some stuff this weekend and send it over to you so that we can get some good coverage on kind of those stories, because that's going to be extremely, extremely fun to watch.
Yeah, my Kenneth here says you can now call yourselves the International Legends Championships.
Yeah. We I remember in 2020 we had a guy come from South Africa, COVID year, and I was just impressed. I'm like, how did you do that with travel restrictions? And like, how'd you get here? And so it's really cool to see people come out. We have a really good following in South America. Bunch of masters down there that love to come up. So we have people coming from Argentina and Brazil. I believe the count is 18 countries this year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome. And it legitimizes you as a competition. Like you're not just in Carlsbad anymore. You're not just 30 some people from LA down to San Diego. Like this is 500 plus athletes from around the world.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I can't wait. This is my first time at Legends. I tried to get to Cookeville last year. Something came up with the fam, but I'm super stoked to be there. My co-host is Jamie Latimer on my Thursday night show.
Oh,
she took second last year in 35 to 39 as a 39-year-old. So she'll be 40 this year. So
And look at that. Let me just grab really quick. I have that roster up right here in front of me. Yeah, even that age group, the 40s, Delana Snyder, Megan Apostolaris, Laura Toon. Man, that's gonna be tough. It's funny, I've been doing a lot of research real quick. The women's 40, a lot of times will beat out the women's 35 on a lot of our competitions and online qualifiers.
Yeah.
And I haven't dove into the research behind it yet. I haven't had time, but there's something there. It's like, typically, your fitness or your times won't get better than the previous age group. But for some reason, it's really close. Women's 40, women's 35. If not, the women's 40 are doing better. So, I'm always excited to watch that age group.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I love this group. I love they're so open and they give so much in like storytelling. I actually enjoy this more than the elites because they've lived a longer life. Their stories are way cooler, and I can't wait to tell a bunch of them.
Yeah. Their maturity, their life experience, and their gratefulness is always something that kind of gives us a lot of fuel every year. And they're really fun to be around, and we're grateful to be able to continue to host it every year for them.
Jeremy says women's 40 to 44 often beat the fittest dude at your local box.
Yes,
that is true.
Very true.
With that, thank you so much, Joe. Thank you to everybody in the chat for hanging out with us. We can't wait to be there next week. Tune in all weekend next week. We'll be live in Arizona doing wrap-up shows, telling stories from the event. So check our Instagram and our YouTube channel for all of that. We'll see everybody next time on Clydesdale Media Podcast. Bye, guys.
Thank you.